Hi there, Sage Canaday of VO2 Max Productions here with another training talk. Today we're going to talk about marathon training, and I'm just going to kind of cover three main types of workouts or basics that will empower you to look at your own marathon training program, whether you have a coach or you're following a program online, you're getting coached online, you're following a magazine article. This will just give you a general idea of what types of workouts you need to kind of have, in my opinion, to run the ideal marathon. And it doesn't matter whether if you're training for a 3:30 marathon or a 2:30 marathon. I believe that a lot of the principles are pretty much the same. So here are some of the basics. Now before I get into the top three types of workouts I think you should have in your plan, I'll just say that a big variable with your success in the marathon is going to be your weekly mileage or volume. And I know a lot of people, depending on your time constraints, with work, family, what climate you live in, you might have trouble, running a certain amount of miles, and you might be limited by that with your biomechanics. If you've had an injury history or you're coming off an injury, you need to be cautious with that as well. So building up mileage, I'm not going to talk about that. That's a whole different other talk. And I will say though, in between these hard workouts that I'm about to list, you want to take easy recovery days. And easy recovery pace is usually something that's going to be at least a minute a mile slower than your goal marathon pace. But it could even be 2 minutes a mile slower. For example, I still run a lot of my easy day paces at over 7 minutes a mile pace to even 8 minutes a mile. And my marathon pace is 5:14. So that's kind of one example of how easy you should go, even taking days off and cross-training between hard workout days, because that's just as important as these hard workouts that I'm about to mention. Alright, so the first type of workout I want to talk about in marathon training that you should have pretty much in your training almost year-round, or at least through the whole cycle, is going to be a lactate threshold / tempo run workout. Now, I have a whole video on the physiology and the idea behind that, but the workouts that I want to talk about are going to be 2-mile repeats and straight-up tempo runs. And both of these train the lactate threshold, which is that point faster than marathon race pace velocity. It's closer to half marathon to 10K race pace velocity or effort, and you're going to be looking at about an 85 to 90% of your maximum heart rate type of deal running these repeats or tempo runs. And the first workout I want to talk about is doing 2-mile repeats. And I think whether you're doing 3x2 miles, 4x2 miles, or 5x2 miles, it's a really great workout for marathon training and even speed training for ultra marathons, because you're running at this high end of your lactate threshold. It's about 10K pace plus 10 to 15 seconds a mile for a lot of people. For people that run under 120 in the half marathon, it's going to be closer to your half marathon pace. And you could run these 2-mile repeats at this effort and take a relatively short rest. It's not a complete recovery between each 2-mile repeat. You could do it on the road, you could do it on the track, you could even do it uphill and adjust the paces as you need. But it's important because that you're getting faster than your marathon goal pace. And for a 3-hour marathoner, that's 6:52 per mile pace. They'd be doing these 2-mile repeats at 6:30 to like 6:25 per mile. And you could do it as a negative split. You could run, the first 2 miles at maybe 6:35 pace, and then the next 2 miles 6:30, and then 6:20, and so on as you progress over time. And taking a really, not a full recovery, maybe a 5-minute to 6-minute rest between each 2-mile hard effort. And that's a great example of a high-end lactate threshold workout. And I've been doing this since college. I've training for 10Ks even. I was doing it at Hansons Brooks, training for the marathon, and I still do it now, training for ultras. So 2-mile repeats in your arsenal there for marathon training. And so the other lactate threshold stimulus is going to be a longer tempo run, which is a continuous effort that's going to start maybe closer to marathon race pace and work down to half marathon race pace. So something in the 4 to to 6 mile range. That kind of gets in that whole endurance and gets you up to that level of intensity maybe for the last couple miles that you'd feel in the 2 mile repeats, but it's working that slower end of the spectrum of your lactate threshold effort and pace. And the velocity, you're developing that neuromuscular pathway of still running efficiently at a pace faster than your goal marathon race pace. And so for that 3-hour marathoner, marathon pace might be 6:52. He or she might be doing a tempo run in the 5 to 6 mile range at 6:40, 6:35 pace. And you progress as your fitness increases over the weeks and months leading into your marathon. So then the second type of major workout for marathon training that's maybe the most important besides lactate threshold tempo run workouts would be your long run. And there's a lot of debate on how long your long run should be, what time it should be. And I do not endorse the Hanson's Marathon Method at all. I ran at Hanson's Brooks as an elite athlete for 2.5 years, and we always did 20 to 22 mile long runs, which I believe is pretty much the ideal long run length. Now that being said, if you're only running 30 miles a week, it's probably a bad idea to go out for a 20 mile long run. That's almost all you need for the whole weeks, and that's going to be too stressful. So in that case, a 15, 16 mile long run is probably a lot more appropriate. And you get away with that because if you're running less mileage, you're going to have to up the intensity. And it's really about adding more speed work to your program to make up for the fact that you're not putting in the 40 or 50 or 60 mile weeks that a lot of marathon runners, especially ones that crack 3 hours, are doing. So that's kind of the takeaway on that. But with the long run, again, you want to work down to a pretty intense level at the end of a lot of these long runs to kind of simulate that fat burning and the glycogen storage capacities of your body. So maybe the 3-hour marathoner, 6:52 is their marathon race pace. They might start their long run at 7:30 pace, which is a pretty steady effort still, and then they might work it down towards 7 flat. Maybe if they're doing a 16 miler the next week, a mid-range long run is what I call that, they work their pace down even faster than marathon goal pace for the last couple miles. And that's hard to do, but it stimulates the fatigue and the strength necessary that you'll need to pull out in the last 10K of the marathon. So that's when people fall apart, is you start hitting the wall at mile 20, and it's just a matter of being able to hold on after that. So long runs, definitely key in your arsenal of workouts, and definitely something that doesn't need to be done every week. But if you're doing 50 miles a week, you might have a long run at 20 miles one week. The next week I'd still be doing 16, maybe 17 miles, and you could change up how those paces stimulate your body. So that's the key takeaway with the long runs. Then the third and final type of workout is even higher end speed training. I call it more VO2 max type of training workouts, and I also have done a video on that, which I'll link to here. But VO2 max workouts, basically great turnover, great speed training for your legs and your heart and lungs at the same time for marathon training. And we're looking at doing things like mile repeats, maybe on the track or the road, 1,000-meter repeats even, or a bread and butter workout I did in high school, college, and at Hanson's, and even for ultras still. And this is going to be in the 5K to 10K pace ranges. Traditional VO2 max would be even closer to 5K race pace for the shorter intervals. And again, not a complete recovery. If you're doing mile repeats, and let's say that the 3-hour marathoner, marathon pace 6:52, they're doing mile repeats probably in about 5:50 per mile. They're not going to take a complete recovery between each hard mile effort. So it's going to be about a 4-minute recovery, 4-minute rest break, easy walk, jog, do the next one. So doing maybe 4 or 5 mile repeats with a 4-minute rest at your 5K to 10K race pace, or at least 40 seconds a mile to even a minute a mile faster than your marathon goal pace, is going to be a really good stimulus. It's going to get your heart rate up over 95% of a maximum heart rate, maximum effort, and you're going to develop a little bit of lactic acid into your system that your body will naturally be able to diffuse of more efficiently and to be able to buffer. But it's also really speed training for your legs at a neuromuscular level. You get the muscle tension, the leg speed, the leg turnover, of a pace that's way faster than what you need to run in the marathon, well, that's going to make your running economy, your efficiency of moving your body at that speed, a lot better at all paces slower than what you're running these repeats at. So basically marathon pace becomes a lot more comfortable, and that's really the key, is to be able to be comfortable at least for the first half or the first 20 miles of a marathon, to be able to move really efficiently. So your heart and lungs are trained optimally, and your skeletal muscular system, your muscles and tendons are trained efficiently, so that you run with good form and you run to the best of your ability. So ultimately, these 3 workouts are what you're going to need to really succeed in the marathon. And looking at your training program, you could kind of analyze how, different variations of these workouts are helping you become a better and stronger runner, and how you could really run up to your potential for 26.2 miles. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more VO2max Productions.